visitors' remarks. Hugh.
Yes, good morning. I haven't had time to digest what I've been hearing, but I will at least comment. There is currently a proposal that the staffing at the library be reduced to 45 hours per week for opening.
Hugh, there's no proposal yet.
There's no proposal.
Correct, they're just looking at it.
Well, that was already
That's a proposal.
mentioned several times.
Yeah, there's been no proposal brought in front of us.
But it was put in more concrete terms yesterday. Again, I'm still learning the details.
Yeah, they met with our HR director.
Right.
Yeah, I fully support 145 hours, but there is nothing in front of us yet.
Well, they seem to think that it's going to be a part of next year's budget already.
Right, but what I'm telling you is we have not had that. So there is no proposal until it comes to us.
We haven't started budget discussions yet.
Right, and we also don't have any.
I mean that respectfully. It's just
okay. I'm just like I say. I'm just learned at 9 o'clock this morning. I'm catching up. So there is still the RFP to be issued, and
Correct.
we will learn more after that is
Correct.
is put in place. Okay, and I would just ask that if in fact changes like that are going to be proposed, that at least the board be included in any discussions.
So my understanding is that the discussion from the HR department to the library is to solicit some information about whether that would be feasible or not and to what extent. So I don't think there's a hard number in place, at least not that I'm aware of. So I think part of this is you have the discussion with the library to understand what their understanding is. So
Hugh, just go off that a little bit. I do support only 45 hours a week and staffing accordingly and safely, by the way. But this is why it's important to get that library under its own control as a 501c3, an advisory board. So you really, all you were going to do is just talk to you about what the plans are, where in the future you would be setting those plans. So that's why I think it's terrific to keep moving in that direction.
And I understand you made that decision on the 45 hours per week, from very early on. So that's understood. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, Walt.
So following up on that, last meeting it was talked about how there is the budget for a staff member for adult literacy, that there is issues of staff having to be the only staff member at the library, and I mean you got the money in the budget for another member of the library. You seem to be concerned about there only being one staff member at the library sometimes because of scheduling issues.
So just real quick, so I think
I'd love to be able to finish a sentence.
Well, I know, but before we go any further with that, I think that happened around 4th of July and people called off. So I don't think it was a staffing issue more than a showing up issue. I think it was from the staff. So just to make sure they're on the right track here.
There is a staffing issue with the library because it used to be 12 people at the library. It's down to 7, I believe, with the one vacancy that you guys have already funded, but haven't provided. You haven't tried advertising for filling the position. From what I've heard, the library could use additional staffing. And you guys have said you don't want to change anything. You've made it very clear that you don't want to change anything until the RFP. Staffing the library at the levels that you have funded for it isn't changing anything. It's just providing the staffing. And I think if you try going down the road of reducing hours and manipulating things, that's more changing things than just doing the same old. And I think it could hurt the library and potentially make the employees have issues with trying to keep their work schedules and everything else. And it just seems like you're heading down a road of trying to get the employees to want to quit so that you can close the library when you're talking about reducing the hours.
That is so asinine.
So listen, we're over budgeted. You're talking 12 employees. What library in Bradford County has 12 employees? We're going to a $500,000 budget soon. We're trying to right size that library to keep it in business. Do you understand? Listen to me. So when we talk, and like I said to Hugh, there's got to be a certain level of staffing for safety. You cannot have one person at that library. That's what our HR and our fiscal department is doing before the budget process, is coming up with a good plan to make sure that everything is staffed and safe and affordable for the taxpayer. So, to say that when you had 12 people, and you got to look at the numbers and you got to look at the utilization. So this is a discussion for budget time with the refined numbers that we're working on now, quite frankly. But it's overstaffed, it's over budgeted, it needs to be right sized and right budgeted so it can continue on.
It's been about a year since you guys tried to secretly close the library. So you must have put a lot of research in this last year about those numbers. So what is the current budget of the Bradford County Library?
$460-some thousand a year.
How much of that is the bookmobile?
About 90, I think about 90, give or take 190 to 100,000.
195,000. How much is the savings to the community for what the library provides? It's been mentioned multiple times during the meetings, and
I'm going to
it's okay if you want to go somewhere else with it in a little bit, but do you know what the savings is to the community?
So
this is all a budgetary thing that we will address during budget time. I'm going to wait until we get the consultants on board to look at this top to bottom.
Before you doing reducing of hours or anything like that, right?
I'm not even going to preface any of that. We're going to get people in place to study top to bottom, soup to nuts, what the services are and what the needs are within the county for the coming future.
There's currently an open vacancy. Will you guys consider discussing filling that vacancy?
I won't, not at this point, no.
So what I would say is, from my perspective, getting the information from the library as to what it understands both its regulatory requirement is for minimum hours, as well as understanding what it sees as its current model of number of hours, etc., is part of this process. So that's why we approach the staff and ask for that kind of input to inform us. And I think that's why you have an HR director and why you have a fiscal director there to help have those conversations. But I mean, saying that we are automatically going to move to a cut of hours, I would say that's a premature statement, at least for this commissioner. I think I want to understand what the director's going to tell us.
And before any cuts of hours go forward, you bring it in front of the public and have public discussion on it and vote on it, correct?
I would certainly.
Or would it just be an administrative thing you would do in the background?
I would certainly like to have an opportunity to discuss it in public, but again, that's...
Commissioner Miller, do you feel the same way?
Feel the same way about?
Discussing it in public before making any changes?
We will discuss it among the board and we will decide what the future is.
That would be in public, correct?
It's got to be discussed in public. You should write fictional novels. It'd be terrific. Secretly. There's no secrets. Everything is done here through a vote. The budget is
had a meeting
stop.
without the public.
The budget is put right on that counter. If you want to go see the budget, you're welcome to come in and look at it. The press does. There's nothing secret that any of our staff does or any of these commissioners do, nor will I be a part of it. I support going to 45 hours a week, 100%, for the record, but more importantly, I support on handing the direction of that library to the board and making it a 501c3 so they run it. So we don't have these discussions. And then, like Wayne County, who I met with over the weekend, representatives from there, on how they fund they have 6 or 7 libraries, but they do it all through their systems board. They fund all of them through their systems board. They hand money, state money, it gets dispersed out, they run their libraries. So
and have you discussed that with the other libraries in the county of completely revamping them so that they are under the system board?
That's nothing to do with us. They are an independent library.
Right, but I mean, he's talking about Wayne County and how everything goes through the system board. That would require all the other libraries in the county to be on board with that. So you would have to be having discussions with those libraries to even have that thought of, we should go to Wayne County. You'd have to have everybody on board to do that.
I think to clarify what Commissioner McClinkle may be referring to, Commissioner McClinkle, you can clarify if not. We currently have a library system board that has representatives from each of the libraries in the county. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're suggesting would be something in which funding goes through the library system and then is allocated to the constituent libraries.
I wasn't clear on that. That's exactly correct.
So I just want to clarify that that's what your proposal again is.
Exactly correct.
So
That's the way they do it.
That would effectively put the libraries under the control of the system board, because the system board would be able to dictate how they receive funds and tell them, well, you're not receiving funds if you don't do what we tell you.
I would disagree with that assumption.
Okay.
I would disagree
That's
with
fine.
that assumption. Monies would be allocated to the library system board, I believe under, and again, I'm not saying this is what we're going to do, but I believe under Commissioner McClinkle's suggestion would be, monies would be allocated. But I don't know, I think it's a step further to say that there's somehow going to be qualifications on that money.
Qualifications.
No qualifications on the money to go to the other library. I know that was part of a discussion early on, that any monies going to any other libraries would have qualifications on them potentially about what books were permitted in which parts of libraries. That's not on the table at all, correct?
I don't think there's anything on the table right now
Well, there's
in that respect.
There's some commissioners that have an idea of exactly how they want things done. So
That is
I'm checking with them to
And
see.
I understand that, but that is a different thing from suggesting that the three of us collectively as a board have something in mind. I would
I
respectfully say
understand
that's
that.
not the case.
No, I'm not saying the board as a whole
Okay.
has that in mind,
Okay.
but there are certain commissioners that might, and they are representing
Well,
the
this
community.
commissioner wants to make sure that all 9 libraries are healthy financially. And that's one way to get there. It's what we started out by budgetary discussions and all of that. So I'm not going to speak any more about it. But we
Discussing about that, you keep going back to the other libraries don't cost as much as the Bradford County Library. So do you think the other libraries are currently in a healthy position?
I think other libraries do what they've got to do, keep their doors open, and I think they work well together. We would like to send more funding to them. Ours is over budget. I'm not going to keep arguing about it, but it is. I mean, I looked all
Do you
over
think
the place.
the other libraries are in a good budget position for the services they want
All
to
I know is
provide?
when I get their budget numbers, I look at it. That's a question that you need to go and ask me.
I'm asking what you think, not
What I think is
I'm not
that
asking what is actually
The
happening. I'm
doors
asking
are
what
open,
you
they're
think.
operating. I'm not going to micromanage any libraries whatsoever. I want to make sure that if we can help fund them and do it in a more cost-effective way for the better way for the taxpayers of Bradford County, like this board has always done since I've been here, we try to help local communities, and that's what we're going to do, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Maine,
You're up.
said you wanted to speak.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought that was
was a
just an
sign-in.
attendance record.
You
I made her.
don't want to speak either.
I made her sign
It's
it.
too late. You have to come up with a subject
We
now.
didn't-
You have to talk. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, James.
Okay, so there's some sort of a proposal to, I guess, limit the hours that a person.
No proposal.
Proposal.
There's no proposal.
There was a discussion.
There was a discussion, there's no proposal.
But the discussion is that any staff member at the library could work no more than 45 hours.
Nothing to do with it.
But what was
It's the hours of operation is all.
Oh, so the whole library would no longer be able to be open more than 45 hours.
That's just one option.
I want to implore everybody to understand. We have to talk, we're talking to the staff to get information on this. The suggestion that there's some commitment to cut it to 45 hours, that is not accurate.
Okay.
Okay,
No,
so I don't, let's be crystal clear here. we're allowed to get information from the staff to understand what is even possible. If the staff, if they come back and tell us for some reason that we're not even aware of, that that's not even feasible or possible, we're going to have to take that under consideration. But that, we're not there yet. We're allowed to ask for information. And the suggestion that asking for information is representative of a, quote, proposal, that is a leap of logic.
So James, we have our fiscal director, our HR director, there's a lot that goes into this. I will tell you that I fully support going to 45 hours. Having said that, you've got to fit the staffing needs in there. It's going to be data driven. You know, as far as an employee telling me what their wants or desires are is one piece of it. The data and the information, the budget and the usage are all a whole other matter, and that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of.
So who else supports going to have it go to 45 hours, a limit of 45 hours?
I just told you mine.
But was there anybody at the library itself that supported?
Just telling you mine. I don't know. I've lived with this for years. And we've watched the decline of usage go down. Now, having said that, this is why I fully support 501(c) and like with Hugh, is getting a board that can run that, like the other libraries have a board that runs theirs. And I'm very interested, my biggest part of me that in this consultant is for the library systems, to see how that's going to interact with all 9 libraries, how well it runs, what kind of funding we can send out, which is going to be critical for those folks when they go to a 501(c)(3), because they're going to have built-in funding already available. Because, you know, as we do it, as other companies do it. So, but how about letting us get to that point before we discuss it? Because we're talking out over our skis.
I would also just again, to clarify, hours is something that, independent of any of the kerfluffle over the library, would be something, just like with any agency or any type of entity within the county, that's always within the confines of what could be discussed, okay, or could be reviewed and examined periodically. And the idea of the RFP, which is a broad-based needs assessment, those are two things. So I want to be clear that while it may on its face look like it's all one big thing, these type of conversations, in my opinion, are within the contours of what we would be doing independently of a needs assessment that will be hopefully forthcoming.
So James, we adjusted the hours in this courthouse. We've gone 37.5 to 40. We've gone from 9 to 5 to 8 to 4:30. But still, look at the hours of the operation in this building and look what all goes on in this building. So looking at hours, it's only open 5 days a week. So you've got to fit it to the right size. So we'll take a look at that library. If the information's being gathered, we'll make a decision.
And I would also say, again,
As far as how many hours it'll be open?
we have regulatory requirements set forth by the state library regulations. We also have the reality and the facts that are going to be gleaned from the director and her staff. And so that's going to have to be put into this. But again, I just, nobody should get the impression that we are going to be cutting hours. Absolutely. I think we are permitted to get information and understand. If somebody tells me that there's, an absolute need to have it, absolutely tell me. If there's somebody who tells me there needs to be more hours, I want to hear that. I want to hear the information that I need to hear. And the suggestion that we're going to just automatically cut hours to a certain number, I'm not there.
There's a lot that goes into it. To be a little bit different there, but the staffing is very critical to make sure, again,
That there's
properly staffed and safe. Because remember, the Bradford County Library sits out the country. You cannot just have one person. So anyway, all that information is getting gathered.
Do you think if you went to 45 hours maximum, if that would help with the?
We don't know that.
You don't seem to think that that's an issue really right now.
Personally, I don't think as far as usage goes and people use it.
I mean, as far as like having only one person there, that's not happening very much, is what you said, I think.
No, it can't happen, is what I'm telling you.
No, you said that it was just a fluke because of a holiday thing.
Well, it was looked into, I'm not gonna get into employee discussions here at this point.
That's fine, but you had said it was just a fluke and that you made it sound like it was just something that doesn't actually happen that often and is an issue for the library.
Okay, and do you know this application to the state to get for the third phase of downtown street paving?
It's all part of their downtown revitalization project. It's an ongoing project.
Do you know what they would do with this third phase?
Specifically, I do not know.
Or do you know how much money they're seeking?
That I can't tell you. Does it? I don't think it says in there, does it?
You could give Jerry a call.
Dave could give you more specifics. Borough manager is there.
Okay. And then, what do you know? Do you happen to know what this project is in Athens Township Parks?
At Tozer's Landing.
Yeah. That's on the gotta be on the Susquehanna River.
I believe it's near there.
It is.
It's on Chemung or Susquehanna. They have a couple of parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the master, I'm just going to read from the letter we received from the Athens Township Parks and Rec Department, but James, you can certainly get a copy of this if you need. But, clearing of some low-growth acreage along the river for a walking trail system, expansion of some parking, adding a restroom facility, composting, a dog park, an exercise area, and then some other things. So it's basically going to be, expanding the undeveloped acreage already owned by the area south of the existing park, and it is along the Chemung River.
That's okay. It's right off the 220 exit.
Yeah. Oh, it's right across from the old Kmart right there. It's very nice.
As you're heading toward what the Chesapeake offices.
What's this? You're gonna issue a request for proposals for something about a Bradford County fatality and near fatality review
That's something
team.
you made, Deb.
That's required by the state to have meetings following a fatality or near fatality.
Is there one? Was there one that happened, or is that just in case one happens?
Correct.
And this. So there's also you're going to issue a request for proposals for trauma-focused therapeutic services for caseworkers. So when I went to the public hearing on Monday, I guess it was, that you were saying that there's a lot of trauma for caseworkers. So I guess this is
It's very challenging. I mean, I can't imagine. People have no concept of what they're faced with on a day-to-day basis.
The state just keeps laying more rags on you guys.
We refer to it as secondary trauma
right.
and vicarious trauma.
Yeah, because really the main trauma is to whoever's, like the child.
Yes.
Okay, so.
But then the caseworker is exposed to it when they are on site and they witness it. During the investigation, when they're hearing reports of the abuse or neglect. And then when they come back to the office to debrief with their supervisor, we refer to that as vicarious trauma because then other workers experience vicarious trauma by hearing what that caseworker is reporting back.
Really?
So it's just a lot of compounded stress in the job.
The people that don't work in that environment have no concept of what these caseworkers face on a day-to-day basis, 24 hours. They never know what they're going to walk into next, and it's just, unfortunately, it's not good in a lot of cases.
Fentanyl and stuff, it's just frightening.
And I would also say This is not something that's just isolated to our folks in our CYS. Your first responders, your law enforcement, fire, EMT staffs, your 911 operators, okay, are facing this. And your CYS are facing it. So I think it's important that we have this and we acknowledge that this is a very real thing and that this is something that we owe it to our staff to provide some supports for. So I'm very happy that we have supported this, and hopefully we'll get some good providers to respond to the RFP.
And that security, I guess some sort of a security guard, I know that you tabled action, but on
Transportation, secure transportation.
So what does that look like? What is
Juveniles that are being transported to care facilities.
What's that?
Whatever.
It's twofold. So because of our staff shortage, we're looking at alternatives of supporting our staff and assuring the health and safety of children when we take them into custody, when we either have to transport them and or staff our lobbies or a hotel because we have lack of providers who might take
staff your what?
our lobby or hotels. We've had to do that in the last couple of years due to a lack of providers willing to take challenging children.
So give an idea how far the child could be transported to get to a facility.
Like
We
Grove,
transport
like Grove
to
City.
Pittsburgh area,
Yeah.
Philadelphia area.
Yeah, so it's just not, the transportation just isn't like.
In county,
It could be, but it's not.
could be hours away.
And it's also the safety of our workers.
Our workers, yes.
Yep.
It's just an awful world that whole thing is today.
So right now, when they transport these kids for placement, there's no security guard or anything like that with them, and they're
Correct. So we send 2 staff to transport 1 child, which then reduces our staffing in county when we're called to go out on an investigation.
So this way, you'd have under the proposal, you'd have 1 staff transport and then a security guard.
Mhm.
Possibly, yes.
Yep.
We have had in the past, James, the sheriff's department has assisted in the transportation as well. But that's based on their availability. They have certainly faced staffing shortages as well. So it's all about resources.
And putting our staff, putting them to the highest and best use of their time
Right.
to continue to be in county protecting our kids.
Yes.
Has the sheriff's department provided deputies recently, or is that something that they did in the past?
They've done it recently, within the last several months.
Okay, so this would take place, they wouldn't have to do that anymore under this proposal?
It would add an additional
It's an
layer of
additional
support
resource.
for us.
Okay, so you wouldn't have to use the sheriff's deputies if you had inserts necessarily, you needed one of these security guards.
It would depend on availability
Okay.
of all of the resources that we have available. And that's oftentimes how things work.
Okay, so this is another option like
Yes.
this. We could,
Just another resource.
what are you talking about, hotel lobbies or what?
So we have kids that are difficult to place and we can't find a facility to admit them.
Elections
We have had to staff children in our lobby or in a hotel room for multiple days at a time.
Okay, so this security guard would possibly like be there when in the lobby or in the hotel.
Yes.
What is the Parents as Teachers Education Program, that's existed, right? That's not a new program, or is it?
It's not a new program.
So you're looking for,
We lost the provider that was providing it, so we're looking for a new provider.
okay,
Yeah. 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're all right. We just had a prison board meeting in 7 minutes.
It's actually 4.
It's at 11:30.
I thought it was 11.
It's 11:30.
Yep, right. 1:30.
I guess. Okay, that's all the questions.